Hi, this is Jason with Violator Comics Collectibles, coming at you with another game review, and this time we're taking a look at Star Wars Arcade for the SEGA 32X. And this was published by SEGA in 1994. Star Wars Arcade is an action space shooter released in arcades by SEGA in 1993. The game places players in control of an X-Wing or Y-Wing in first or third person as they fight against the Imperial forces during the timeline of the original Star Wars trilogy. It was ported over to the SEGA 32X as a launch title and was released in North America on November 21st, 1994. At the start of the game, you're given the choice of either playing the arcade version or the 32X version, which is longer and includes new levels. You choose between one player flying an X-Wing or two players flying a Y-Wing. Choosing two players gives you an extra gunner cursor on screen and more shields. You're able to fly in either first person in the cockpit or third person with an outside view of your ship, similar to games like Star Fox. You progress through the game by shooting down a set number of TIE fighters within a certain amount of time and not losing all your shields and being shot down. Failing to do either will cause you to lose one of your three continues. Further levels will have you make an assault on a Super Star Destroyer and eventually the Death Star. Your ship is equipped with unlimited blasters and limited proton torpedoes, which slowly regenerate over time. This game is notorious for being extremely difficult. Each level gives you very limited motion to fly around while fighting and evading enemy fighters and guns within a fairly strict time limit. The TIE fighters also like to stay behind you, making it difficult to even get a chance to shoot them. The Super Star Destroyer and Death Star levels are an incredible gauntlet of fighters, torpedoes, and lasers while navigating tight spaces with limited motion. This causes many cheap deaths, and with only 3 continues, you can get some aggravating and repetitive gameplay. Just remember, you're going to die a lot. While the gameplay can be extremely frustrating at times, when you actually get to blow up the Super Star Destroyer or Death Star, you have an extreme level of accomplishment. The graphics on Star Wars Arcade look very impressive for the time on the SEGA 32X. The polygon graphics are dated compared to today's standards, but I remember seeing them for the first time when it came out and being blown away. The cockpit, scores, time overlays, and particles representing speed are represented by the SEGA Genesis, while the 32X uses its power to handle all the stars, polygons, ships, shapes, and 3D graphics. The digitized versions of Admiral Akbar and Darth Vader look very good, and it's really nice to see characters pop up on your radar screen during gameplay. Making your approach on the Death Star is extremely impressive graphically, and flying around the surface of the Death Star and into the trenches gives you a great 3D flying experience.
Block S-files and attack positions.
3 leaders standing by.
They're coming in! 3 marks at 210! Watch it, you've got one on your tail!
The game does experience some pop-in issues with enemies appearing on screen when they are fairly close to you, especially the cannons that fire the torpedoes at you. Luckily, if you memorize where these cannons are, you can shoot them even before they pop up on your screen. Sound is a mixed bag in this game. When starting the game, you're greeted by the classic Star Wars intro with an amazing version of the Star Wars theme. Unfortunately, that's where the amazing quality music ends. The rest of the music in the game is very synthesized and low quality, especially when you know the game is capable of such high quality music. The sound effects are very well done in this game, and all the iconic sounds from Star Wars, including the lasers, proton torpedoes, voices, and ship sounds, are well represented here. The controls in this game are responsive and easy to learn, but only if you're using the 6-button controller. The 3-button controller is not suited for this game and will have you pressing multiple buttons at a time for certain functions. In a game that has an unforgiving difficulty, you don't want to have controls that are so confusing and convoluted. The game uses the D-pad to fly your ship using inverted flight controls. Pressing down makes you go up, and pressing up makes you go down. This is pretty standard for flight controls, and there's no way to change it in-game. Using the 6-button controller, the A button slows your ship, the B button speeds it up, C fires your lasers, X swaps from cockpit to third-person view, and Z fires your proton torpedoes. I had no problems with the controls of this game when using the 6-button control pad. Most 32X games don't require the 6-button controller, but they all seem to have so many control functions that investing in one is highly recommended, especially if you are collecting for the system. Overall, Star Wars Arcade is a fun, arcade-style space shooter. Being one of the 3 launch games, Star Wars Arcade was probably one of the first games most people got when investing in the system. And a Star Wars game at the time was a system seller for the 32X, and this game was only released on this platform. It was one of the 2 games I got for Christmas in 1994 when I first got my 32X, and it mostly delivers on being a great game. My final score for Star Wars Arcade is a 7.5 out of 10. The arcade-style gameplay is represented well in the 32X, but the difficulty is unforgiving, and I'm sure many kids who received this game for Christmas in 1994 were really frustrated by it. The 3D polygon graphics were amazing at the time of its release, and even though they seem dated now, did a great job of trying to capture the arcade visuals on a home console. The sound effects capture the Star Wars universe well, but the majority of the music is a letdown, especially after hearing what the system was capable of during the opening Star Wars scroll. The controls are easy to learn when using the 6-button controller due to the many control buttons needed and function great. Most 32X games had tight production windows, and this game was rushed to make it for the system's launch. I feel that more time would have at least helped fix the game's disappointing music during gameplay. Even with all its flaws, Star Wars Arcade is an exclusive title for the 32X that everyone collecting for the system should own. Once again, this has been Jason with Violator Comics Collectibles. If you have questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, and I will see you guys next time.